So she's, of course, she's also speaking of playing the game of chess. But uh, the whole thing started with the dressing room or the inner room of a woman's house, where she is sitting. All description of this room, where perhaps we are reminded of the coming of famous Queen Cleopatra, then many other women's rooms, but also one picture reminded us of that famous story, the old story. What's it? The Philomel story. Philomel story. A Philomel story where a brother-in-law rapes, or Philomel's brother-in-law, actually Tereus, King Tereus, uh, ravishes or rapes this his own wife's sister, but later the two girls take revenge in a very barbarous way, killing son and feeding uh, the roasted body of the son to the king. And after that, they run away. But hello, welcome. Even now, these birds are, uh, flying. Perhaps the cry of this nightingale. Philomel became a nightingale. The cry of nightingale even now reminds the world of this most heinous act, perhaps which is continuing. That story continues even today. We already found the jug to dirty ears. The dirty act or the misuse of sex, love, is still continuing. So this background is there, and we are continuing with it. And we now come to another little situation. Again, maybe is it the same woman, or is it another woman talking? But someone is talking. From line 139 onwards, line 139. Again, a couple of things. One interesting thing is this woman. Okay, we'll read it once. We'll start reading it. When Lil's husband got demarked, I said, I didn't mince my words. I said to myself, hurry up, please, it's time. Now, Albert's coming back. Make yourself a little smart. So, what is the hurry up, please, it's time? What could it be? Any idea you can imagine? Then it goes on again and again. The refrain comes, hurry up, please, it's time.
Because an affair is going on, something like that.
Somebody's shouting also in capital letters. Okay. Hurry up, please, it's time.
Leaving for a trip.
Living, yeah, it could be.
Or also packing bags.
They are talking, but the bar is to close. The tavern is to close. The bar is to be closed. When it is 2 o'clock in the early morning and things like that, the time is over. Leave. Hurry up, please, it's time. Now, this conversation goes on. It's a long conversation. We understand that a woman is talking to someone else, maybe another woman. A woman is talking. From this, we make out that a woman is talking. We'll understand. A woman is talking about her friend. So, and again, we are not sure who she is talking to, but her words are given very well, punched by these, interrupted by these interruptions, these refrain. Hurry up, please, it's time. That's all. Otherwise, the conversation is going on. So I already mentioned, when such a conversation, we again, earlier also we found, this is called what monologue? Dramatic monologue. It's a monologue, but here going to be the other person we don't know, but she's going on talking. When Lil's husband got demobbed, so demobbed or demobilized is this is to be released from the army. Released from the army. So Lil's husband, no, Lil's husband is coming back from the army. When Lil's husband got demobbed, that means his resignation or his time is over. He's retiring. He's coming. Then I told her, I didn't mince my words. I was blunt actually. These girls how they talk. I didn't mince my words. I said to her myself, Arya, please, it's time. Now Albert's coming back. So Albert must be Lil's husband. I told Lil, now Albert's coming back. Make yourself a bit smart. He'll want to know what you have done with that money he gave you to get yourself some teeth. So your teeth, all teeth are gone. And husband is coming back after a long time in our army. So make yourself, buy a new teeth. Make yourself a little smart. So he gave you money and he would want to know what you did with the money. He did. I was there. What was this other woman being there when the husband is giving money for her wife? Anyway, so we have already questions. What is this? Her business in Lil's husband's thing, and she's coming and advising this wife to make herself a little smart for her husband. So he did. I was there. You have them all out, Lil, and get a nice set. He said, I swear, I can't bear to look at you. Must be the husband. This is what husband said. So go and get a nice teeth. I can't even look at you. You look so, ugly. Change yourself. Yeah. And no more can I said. I was telling her, I also said, you look very, horrible. I also told her. So no more can I said. And think of poor Albert. This husband, poor husband. His wife is so ugly, But what, isn't it? And think of poor Albert. He's been in the army 4 years. So now he's returning after 4 years now. He wants a good time. When he comes back after a long time, he wants a good time. And if you don't give it him, there are others will. There's others will, I said. If you are not able to give him a good time, other people are there to give him a good time. I said. Oh, he's there. So I said, oh, is it that way? She said. Who said? Lil said. Okay. Something that I said. No, I'm not saying that, but then I'll know who to thank. She said, okay, then I know who to thank. And give me a straight look. So now we have some idea. Hurry up, please, it's time. So here the conversation is going on. Background, the refrain is going on.
Bartender is yelling.
If you don't like it, you can get on with it, I said. Okay, if you don't like what I say, get on with it, I said. Others can pick and choose if you can't. Okay, which means Albert will do something or he'll find other women. Okay, so others can pick and choose if you can't. But if Albert makes off, it won't be for lack of telling. Okay, I tell you, if Albert goes away, it won't be for lack. I'm warning you anyway. You ought to be ashamed, I said, to look so antique. You look so antique like this. She has such a such a concern for the husband,
Yeah.
this is
That's
such a, yeah.
Excessive.
I know. So, and her only 31. Imagine, she's only 31. I can't help it, she said, pulling a long face. It's the pills I took to bring it up, she said. The pills was, I think, at one time it was synonymous with pills for abortion. So I can't help it, she said, pulling a long face. It's the pills I took. So this was the after effect of this, abortive pills that I took. Or yeah, anti-pregnancy medicine that I took. Pulling a long face. To bring it off. It is bring it only, to bring it off. To bring it off, she said. She's had 5 already, Lil had already 5 children, and nearly died of young Albert. Yeah, I'm sorry, young George, the last one must be. She almost died. After that, she started taking these pills. That's how she says she lost her teeth. The chemist said it would be all right. But I've never been the same. Maybe she's quoting Lil's. The chemist said. That means she went to, some over-the-counter medication. No, the pharmacist. And so the pharmacist said it would be all right. So the chemist said it would be all right. But I've never been the same. But she's saying, I have been completely. You are a proper fool, I said. You are a proper fool. Well, if Albert won't leave you alone, there it is, I said. So Albert won't he leave you alone? So this is how it is. And what do you get married for if you don't want children? So what's the point? You don't want children. Hurry up, please. It's time. That's how it's going on. Well, that Sunday Albert was home. So finally, that Sunday, Albert was, she did not go for the teeth. Anyway, that Sunday, Albert was home. They had a hot gammon. And they asked me into dinner to get the beauty of it hot. Actually, gammon is a kind of a smoked ham. But there is another little reference. I think gamos or gamos in Greek means sexual act. Sex. Gamos. So there is an indication. They had hot gammon. And this lady or the speaker was also invited to that. They had a party. So the rest we have to imagine. So that Sunday, Albert was home. They had a hot gammon. And they asked me in to dinner to get the beauty of it hot. So all this is, sketchy painting. Hurry up, please, it's time. Hurry up, please, it's time. So now this refrain, hurry up, please, it's time. Sometimes somehow suddenly we are reminded of different things. One is this, I think even earlier we mentioned carpe diem. Carpe diem. I was just looking at so the carpe diem, the meaning of it. Seize the day. That's the yeah, seize the day. So it means seize the day. And I was just looking at it is a literary device. I think quite a famous literary device that's used very much. I think it is used in Horace, the famous Latin poet. Horace. The phrase is part of the longer poem, Carpe diem quam minimum credula postero, which is often translated as seize the day, put very little trust in tomorrow. Seize the day, put very little trust in tomorrow. Forget about tomorrow. Enjoy today. This is carpe diem. So it's this poem that the Latin poet writes. This speaks about the thing that the future is unseen, and that one should not leave to chance future happenings, but rather one should do all one can today to make one's own future better. So, of course, Horace was an Epicurean. Epicurean philosophies enjoy, make the best of today. He was an Epicurean. And this term has become so very famous, this carpe diem. And more than the poem itself, this phrase carpe diem has become so famous. For example, I think sometimes I have not, I didn't see it in any reference to this, the wasteland, but I was suddenly reminded of Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. Sometimes in many poems, Omar Khayyam is mentioned. Omar Khayyam. See, Omar Khayyam, he was even that means 11th century one, I think Middle East Arabic multi-faceted personality. He must have written some poems, but actually this Edward Fitzgerald, the English, the British poet Edward Fitzgerald, published a collection of poems, a book of verses, and this was called the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. So it was translated, but nobody's sure of the originals. He says it's a translation from these Arabic poet, but this poem, this is 1859. It was published in 1859. Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. This became very famous. Now, especially this quatrain, these 4 lines. Now, this is how these 4 lines read. Again, this is a beautiful, perhaps a much very famous quote for Carpe Diem. This is how he goes. A book of verses underneath the branches, a jug of wine, a loaf of bread, and thou beside me singing in the wilderness. Oh, wilderness where paradise enough. Enough means enough. Paradise enough. So even a wilderness will be paradise if a book of verses, then a loaf of bread, and a jug of wine, and you singing beside me. Then what to bother? This is the famous quotation that is quoted after Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. So again, another very famous example of Carpe Diem. But Carpe Diem, can you think of any film or famous story where this enjoy now, forget about everything else? There are various, very interesting stories have come out. Enjoy now, especially a frenzied enjoyment of the present. That becomes too frenzied when death is running behind, in front. When you become too conscious of death, actually, if you look at the paintings, Carpe Diem paintings, it's mostly somebody is enjoying, but behind is either time. Time is running after me, or the skull. Time and death are the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you? Sonia? Any stories?
So how does this relate to the previous section we had?
No. I'm only talking of hurry up, please. It's time.
Okay.
Hurry up, please. It's time. Enjoy now. Death is running behind us. There are, for example, I'm thinking of a few of Malayalam films. I think it's Nadia Moidu's one old film. I have not seen any films, but where she comes and she enjoys her life very much. She knows that she's going to die because of cancer or something, isn't it? Blood cancer. She has blood cancer. She's going to die.
Mhm.
She does all kinds of funny things.
Mhm.
Huh? And people think that she's crazy, but she doesn't bother about anything else. She enjoys, but then only because she knows that she's going to die.
She's done.
Yeah. The bucket list when people die, they create a bucket list of things you want to do rather than the same concept.
Yeah. Bucket list. Sometimes people like when they're going to die. Yeah. When they know that something is going to happen.
Time is
Yeah.
chasing.
Actually, there are many stories where someone knows that he or she is going to die. Maybe a wife, maybe a husband, and then there is this frenzied enjoyment, and in a way, even a neurotic enjoyment of presence.
Mm.
When the thought of death becomes so vivid and oppressive, this increases so much. Anyway, what I'm explaining is one thing, this one line, repetitive line. Two, so in one way, this refrain is there behind you. Maybe our Lil's friend, we don't know her name, the nameless Lil's friend. She's talking of her enjoyment. Maybe they are in a bar, definitely. And they are having drinks and enjoying. But then there is this rhythm of the beat of time is behind them, which makes it much more poignant. This movement.
Mm.
Yeah. Now,
I was thinking like a Western culture, especially
Yeah.
the celebrated Western culture, which Malayalis think is bad,
yeah.
is based on this carpe diem. Plug the day. They
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
also are seized into that. We enjoy and we celebrate. When we go,
Yeah.
eat more than what we can eat, drink more than what we can drink.
Enjoy.
Enjoy. After all, we lose the problem with that is, we lose the focus and we forget that we are called for a bigger cause.
Yeah. Especially when there is nothing. For example, the danger of the wasteland is that in this dreary existence, what else do we have? Enjoy now.
Yeah.
Enjoy now, because no other meaning is there. Nothing else is there. Perhaps he's also the author is also trying to say that, of course, marriage But then, marriage, what is marriage for? So it's a rhetorical question, but no answer. Children, or you know, you don't value life. All this is happening. So even marriage in wasteland has become meaningless, or the marital relationship has become meaningless, and the infidelity is a very a real thing in married life. And you talk without any qualms about how this goes on. Finally, we come to the last part. Good night, Bill. Good night, love. Good night, May. Good night. So you don't.
It's a sudden sunset, it's such a,
Yeah.
it's like a crescendo, and all of a sudden it's
Yeah.
the sun sets and it's
Yes.
night.
I think it's a good night. So this, the person is not even able to say good night. D is not about a good night. Good night. Yeah.
Bar,
Yeah. Yeah. Good night. Good night. Yeah. Tasha. Good night. Good night.
Back out of their head.
Good night, ladies. Good ladies. Sweet ladies. Good night.
Solve
Good
the
night.
problem you mentioned earlier that women don't drink, so
I know.
it solved the problem.
You have seen, when they are so happy, they made it become much sweeter. No? Sweet ladies, good night. So the scene comes, but then we are also reminded, especially those who are familiar with the literature, will be very painfully reminded of another couple of scenes, especially from Hamlet. Hamlet. Couple of scenes. One is the good night scene, that is I think already we mentioned the closet scene where Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, the in the pain or upset son, the burdened son of the assassinated father, King Hamlet. So King Hamlet has been maybe treacherously assassinated by Hamlet's brother, and he has become the king now. And the King Hamlet's wife, Gertrude, the brother has married, going on. But the ghost of King Hamlet comes and tells the son to take revenge. But then it goes on. He wants to be sure, so he pretends to be mad. Then in this pretending to be mad, one thing that happens is he had an affair. He had a very beautiful girl. He had a love affair before that. Remember? Anyone?
She's like the daughter of a nobleman.
Yeah, he's the chief courtier Polonius' daughter, Ophelia. But then she does something foolish. Her dad asks her to spy on Hamlet. She very faithfully obeys her dad. And so for Hamlet, even her love is not with him. So he becomes, so his father is gone, his uncle is the villain, his mother is married to this person, even Ophelia is not in love, or she loves him still. But then, and then in the closet scene, actually Polonius, this chief courtier, arranges a meeting between mother and son, and arranges a conversation in which They are checking if this madness is true madness or if he is pretending. That's what they want. But then, in that scene, Hamlet very dramatically confronts his mother and tells her, you are doing something very evil. Like your husband died, he's a great man, died, and without any delay, he got into the bed of another man. He talks very rashly, but then as he's talking, Polonius is hiding behind the curtains. Polonius suddenly thinks that he is going to attack his mother and kill her. So he suddenly shouts there. And Hamlet, he knows that some treachery is going on, but he thinks that behind the curtain is the king hiding. So he takes his sword and thrusts the sword into the curtain. And then Polonius dies there. Of course, he didn't. But then, meanwhile, Gertrude feels so bad about her behavior. And Gertrude finally, repents. And Hamlet gets a word from her that marital relationship will not go on, she gets. And finally, he bids her farewell, saying good night. One thing we are reminded of is good night. Good night. That good night. Again. So he repeatedly says good night to Gertrude, and closes with, until that time, lady he is calling, but he says, mother, good night, mother. So that is one scene. Another very painful scene is, especially good night, sweet ladies, good night. That is the Ophelia. There's the last scene where Ophelia comes on stage. Ophelia finally becomes mentally deranged because one thing, she loves Hamlet deeply, but then her father asks her to return all the love letters back to Hamlet. So she returns it. Then Hamlet really, thrashes her out with words. So she doesn't know what to do. She's a puppet in the hands of her father, and her deep love for her lover, she's caught in between. But then suddenly, her father gets killed. And her father's body is not to be seen. Hamlet continues to pretend to be mad and hides the body. And there's a big search for the body. Meanwhile, Polonius' son, who was studying in Paris, that means Ophelia's brother, comes back and he wants to take revenge now. So he comes back. All this messy scene, and she becomes mad. So she goes on singing songs and running around. And there's the last scene is very painful, where in the last scene, Ophelia is coming, and then, the king is so upset. And the queen is also so upset because this poor, beautiful Ophelia is mentally totally deranged. But she is not aware of this. She has all these flowers. She's walking around with flowers. This flower for that, this flower for this. She's singing and walking around in the palace that way. So the last scene is she's singing something. Now, the king is saying, pretty Ophelia. Then Ophelia, indeed, love without an art, I'll make an end on it. She's going on saying in her deranged thing. And she goes on singing, by gifts and by Saint Charity, alack, and fie for shame. See, she's going on to sing maybe something like a ballad, some common song maybe of that time. By gifts, by Jesus and by Saint Charity, Allah can fight for shame. Young men will do it if they come to it. Young men are that way. They will do it if they come to it. By cock, they are to blame. By cock, it is by God, it can be, but you know the other meaning. Huh? They are. So you can't blame young men for what they do. Quoth she, before you tumbled me, you promised me to wed. Even before that, come. You know, it begins this way. Tomorrow is Saint Valentine's Day. All in the morning betime, and I am made at your window to be your Valentine. So this girl is saying, tomorrow is Valentine's Day, early morning. I want to be at your window. So because the thing is that on Valentine's Day, the first girl that the boy sees will be his Valentine. So she's saying, I'll go in the morning to be his Valentine. Then up he rose and donned his clothes. So she's singing the song. So the boy gets up, put on his clothes, and took the chamber door, opened the chamber door, let in the maid. That out a maid never departed more. So he took the maiden, but she never came out a maid. That means he was misused. Then after that, he's saying, by gifts and by Saint Charity, Allah, fight for shame. What a shame it is. Young men will do it if they come to it. Young men are that way. They do it if they come to it. By cock, they are to blame. Quoth she, before you tumble me, you promised me to wed. But before that, you promised me to wed. You said it. That's what the girl said. So would have done by yonder sun, and thou hadst not come to my bed. So of course I would have married you. If you had not come to my bed, I would have married you. That's what he says. Now, these are the last words. No. Then again, after that, she's singing the song. Ophelia then, king is asking, how long has she been like this? Ophelia is not hearing this. I hope all will be well. We must be patient. But I cannot choose but weep to think they should lay him in the cold ground. So suddenly he's speaking of her dad. So she is talking of different things. In one way, it is her own situation. She was in love, of course. She was not misused that way physically, but she was loved by somebody, but then she is left in the lurches by now. So they will in the ground. My brother shall know of it. And so I thank you for your poor counsel. Come, my coach. Good night, ladies. Good night, sweet ladies. Good night. Good night. Exit. This is the last exit of Ophelia. Of course, in the next scene, the news comes that Ophelia climbed on a willow tree that was leaning onto a river, a flowering willow. But the willow, she was dressed all in white, like a bridal white, and this willow tree went into the water. She was drowned, dead. So these are the last words of Ophelia, the pure one, the innocent one. So, but here we have another kind of good night, another kind of the same thing. We are placed against it. Okay, so we are at close of part 2, the game of chess. Any quick thoughts as we move on to the third scene, the part 3?
I want to know how this 140 to 170 connected with the previous one. Previous part is the same part.
Okay, actually,
Or it was-
different glimpses of, in one way, the whole narration is different, a mosaic presentations of the poverty, the disarray, the shattered mental state of the denizens of the dwellers of the wasteland. This scene started with, first talking about that how this lady is sitting on a chair. Is it the same lady we are talking? We don't know.
Mm.
But it looks like different scenes that the narrator, who is the narrator, who is saying the story? Tiresias. Tiresias is seeing could be. In one way, we can think that this Lil's friend is again talking to Tiresias. Then we don't know Tiresias is a woman or man here. So it could be Tiresias. And in between, there was this, some other quick thoughts of, we are in Rat's Alley, where dead men lost their bones. So, but some frightening mental state on the one hand, maybe through that, a lot of meaningless existence is depicted.
Even this Richard D. Mobbed, right? This is post-World War One, right? Kind of that.
Yeah.
It's typically this, I mean, with soldiers, what happens when they go to other lands, they have that freedom. But he's coming home after 3-4 years, and you have this voice tempting, rushing, and he's involved in this crazy thing at the end of Rendezvous and the wife. It's just kind of counter a joyous occasion again, just brought to ashes in a way.
That's very true. Actually, it's written in 1922, soon after First World War. The poem is written.
Should be a welcome.
Yeah, it's a typical family situation where, and mostly soldiers are famous for, the such life. And that way.
Okay, so I got a random thought that, the I who is being mentioned here
Yes.
Need not be Lil's friend. It can also be a Lil's personality. Like her own, a part of her own, say her own being that is more into the sexual nature or into the amorous things in their relationship. So like a different face to herself. See, okay, because if we are looking at the literal meaning, then we'll have to assume that this friend was also involved with the relationship between the husband and the wife, right?
Yeah.
So it could also be that the I here is a what to say, is a just another part of her identity. So she is just sitting at the bar. Maybe her own mind is telling her to get her teeth fixed or something like that. Because
It's a little far-fetched, but, but here it is.
She has a lot of guilt. Oh, this lady.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be.
Yeah, it could be, but here it is from the conversation, it is very clear that she's just narrating that Lil and what Lil said. She said this. It is repeated. She said this.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
it's,
but,
it's
of course.
all about he said, right? It's
Even
never
she said.
written she said.
No, of course she said. It is saying, get yourself, Lil's husband has got removed. I said to her myself, I was coming back because I was smart.
Nothing here suggests otherwise also, right? I don't know.
Hey,
It's all about my inner voice telling me. Okay.
definitely.
For example, okay, I can think about it like this. So, okay, Eddie Chatton said this. To you. Okay, yeah. So it could also be another. I don't know. It's a random thought.
It's bipolar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just putting it out there.
I-
Good
I-
thought.
That doctor is approving it.
Because the last also well, that Sunday Albert was home and they had a hot gavel. It could be the sexual act.
Yeah.
And,
And
they
they-
asked me into dinner to get the beauty of it hot. So
After like-
this random thought came in when I read that. Today,
Okay.
right?
Here, no, and her only 31.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
can't help it, she said,
Huh.
pulling a long face.
Exactly. It's it could even be the part of our psyche is dealing with the inferiority complex also.
Oh, anyway,
Okay, okay. So I say to myself, like, Robert, you are only 31. And you could be the similar thing. Yeah, I'm just putting
I think
random
it may be
thoughts.
Robert.
Yeah. He's a mother of five as
We got our Ophelia here.
All people are.
well.
Yeah. Okay, shall we move on to the next one? The next is called the fire sermon. Any idea what is the fire sermon? Anyone?
Probably like a priest preaching on like hell and brimstone.
Very good. That's a very, very good thought. A priest preaching fire and brimstone. Very good. Yeah. 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 Actually, this is here something very interesting. This title, I'm just reading. A part of the name of a sermon by the Buddha. Fire sermon is a famous sermon by Buddha. You know, I didn't explain who Buddha is. The Buddha. To a great congregation of priests who followed him from Uruvela in the direction of Gaya head. They're going to Gaya, where he gave the homily, this talk. So this is from Buddha in translation from Cambridge. Now this is how he goes on. This is relevant for our further discussion. All things, O priests, are on fire. And what, O priests, are all these things which are on fire? The eyes, O priests, is on fire. Forms are on fire. Eye consciousness is on fire. Impressions received by the eye are on fire. And whatever sensations, pleasant, unpleasant, or indifferent, originates in dependence on impressions received by the eye, that is also on fire. And with what are these on fire? With the fire of passion, say I. With the fire of hatred, with the fire of infatuation, with birth, old age, death, sorrow, lamentation, misery, grief, and despair, they are on fire. The ear is on fire. Sounds are on fire. The nose is on fire. Odors are on fire. The tongue is on fire. Tastes are on fire. The body is on fire. Things tangible are on fire. The mind is on fire. Ideas are on fire. Mind consciousness is on fire. Impressions received by the mind are on fire. And whatever sensation, pleasant, unpleasant, indifferent, originates in dependence on impressions received by the mind, that also is on fire. And with what are these on fire? With the fire of passion, say I. It goes on. Further, it goes on. He talks. All this is on fire. Finally, he concludes. I skip a long passage. I go to this passage and he says, the sermon ends. Now, while this, okay, just one last sentence. And in conceiving this aversion, he becomes divested of passion. And by the absence of passion, he becomes free. So he's then talking about coming out of this, fire. That means you have to detach yourself. The famous Buddhist attitude of, aversion, nirvana, he's talking of. So finally, you have to, reject all these attachments to all these things. And in conceiving this aversion, he becomes divested of passion. And by the absence of passion, he becomes free. And when he is free, he becomes aware that he is free. And he knows that rebirth is exhausted. So this is how, otherwise, you're from birth to rebirth, it goes on. We are in the cycle. So finally, we become out of the cycle by coming out of this passion. And he knows that rebirth is exhausted, that he has lived the holy life, and he has done what is behooved him to do, and that he is no more for this world. That's how we become away from this world. This is the fire sermon. And he concludes, the sermon ends. Now, while this exposition was being delivered, the minds of the 1,000 priests became free from the attachment and delivered from the depravities. So even as Buddha was talking, these priests were delivered of their passions. They became free. Now, there is this fire sermon at the background. But of course, we are only on the third part. Still the fire is burning. We are going to see more of this fire burning. Actually, we have been seeing this fire burning. We are going to see more of the fire burning. And this burning fire makes the wasteland a wasteland. Is it? The river's bed, the river's tent is broken. The last fingers of leaf clutch and sink into the wet bank. The wind crosses the brown land unheard. The nymphs are departed. Sweet Thames, run softly till I end my song. The river bears no empty bottles, sandwich papers, silk handkerchiefs, cardboard boxes, cigarette ends, or other testimony of summer nights. The nymphs are departed, and their friends, the loitering heirs of city directors, departed, have left no address. By the waters of Leman I sat down and wept. Sweet Thames, run softly till I end my song. Sweet Thames, run softly, for I speak not loud or long. We come back. Because so many famous references here. One thing is the nymphs, the nymphs. Who are the nymphs? The beautiful, most of these Greek poems had these nymphs of the rivers, nymphs of the meadows, beautiful spirits that the poets found, and those imaginary world were inhabited by all kinds of beautiful nymphs. So when we suddenly says when the nymphs are departed, so the nymphs of river, according to the Greek mythology, I don't know, these lines tell us the magic is now gone from what used to be a very magical place, a place that inspired poets to write about love and beauty. So the nymphs are departed. All the nymphs are gone. The river's tent is broken. Of course, here it can be any river, but if it's England, so it must be River Thames. River Thames. What is river's tent is broken? Yeah. River's tent. There are these overarching branches, green branches, beautiful branches covering these beautiful tree river. This tent is broken. When does this leafy tents break? Autumn, winter. The river's tent is broken. Apparently, one quick reading is the covering of the rivers, the beautiful river's covering is gone. That means now summer is over. Autumn is setting in. Leaves are falling. The last fingers of leaf clutch and sink into the wet bank. So the winter is almost there. The leaves fall. Of course, you are not in Florida. Not in Florida, nor in Kerala. I tell my students in Kerala, you cannot even imagine. The rivers tent breaking. The rivers tent never breaks there. Of course, Germany, yes, isn't it? As I was passing through Germany, one of the other times they said, no, of course, in no time, in 2 weeks, all this will go, and a few weeks and everything will become bare. Now all, yellow, orange, all these colors and all these fallen. So the river's tent is broken. The last fingers of leaf clutch and sink into the wet bank. So for a little while, this will float. Then the leaves would become wet and go down. And the wind crosses the brown land unheard. So now the winter time, the winds have started. The wind crosses the brown land unheard. So blowing through the wasteland. The wind is blowing. The nymphs are departed. Any repetition? The nymphs are departed. This is also the situation of the modern age. All this imaginary, beautiful. Sometimes we have all these children's stories now, in which you have all these beautiful flowers and little nymphs dancing and all pictures. Huh?
What's their nature? I'm forgetting in Greek mythology. They're just beautiful. Are they tempting as well?
No. They are nymphs of, nymphs for everything. River nymphs. So, or
Kind of like
yeah.
fairies.
All fairies, all beautiful creatures, all beautiful creatures. So morning, the nymphs come and dance in the meadows. So all this, so you don't see it, but children see it. All the poets see it. So they speak of those nymphs and the nymphs coming and collecting flowers. All this. So when you are describing these anything, the poets mention all these nymphs of everything. But there are all these beautiful spirits associated with, anything beautiful.
Okay.
The river, the spring, or morning, everything is, there are nymphs. So, but these nymphs have gone. But here, then sweet Thames, run softly till I end my song. Now, this one line is a very famous line that almost all literature people would know. Almost a contemporary of Shakespeare, maybe a little soon after him, was Edmund Spenser. Edmund Spenser. Spenser wrote poems in the old traditional romantic style. And two of his poems are very famous. One is Prothalamion and Epithalamion. So this one line is from Prothalamion. Prothalamion. So Thalamion is to do with marriage. Prothalamion is marriage preparation. So a marriage song. Of course, he writes this song for, two court weddings. So all these poets used to make a living by writing these poems about some lord, their children, somewhere. So this is a famous lord's two daughters are getting married. And he's writing this long marriage poem. If I remember correctly, it's a 9-line stanzas. And each stanza ends with sweet Thames, run softly till I end my song. So there he sees, two beautiful swans coming. That means this imagery of these two girls coming, and then all nymphs coming and collecting flowers from Thames bank, all flowers, all these pictures he presents. Now, when he is making this, we are suddenly thinking of Thames River, so beautiful in those Elizabethan times. Beautiful Thames in Elizabethan times. So that background is there from Edmund Spenser's Prothalamion. Now, suddenly river's tent is broken. So now maybe the winter time has come. The river bears no empty bottles, sandwich papers, silk handkerchiefs. What happens? What are he suddenly referring to? All the poetic things are gone. Now he's talking about empty bottles and sandwich papers and handkerchiefs and cardboard boxes and cigarette ends. What? The partying time is over. The partying time is over. So there was such partying in summer. That summer party is over. All that's gone. Or other testimony of summer nights. The summer nights were festive. And now they have left everything and they have gone. The nymphs are departed. So here the nymphs, meaning we are suddenly reminded of some other nymphs come for these parties. Some other nymphs in these parties. The nymphs are departed and they are friends of these nymphs. The loitering heirs of city directors, the rich family, they're loitering heirs. But of course, you know the cycle, no? When the father is poor, the son will be ambitious and hardworking, will make a lot of money. Their children will be spendthrifts, easy money. And they are the loitering heirs of city directors. The loitering heirs of city directors, they are also departed. The nymphs have gone, the party time is over, and they are departed. Have left no address. That's the problem. Everything is over. You know the famous story. Sometimes it is not a reference here, but sometimes the famous Indian story I mentioned. The king came met this country girl in the forest, had an affair. He went back. He gave a keepsake. Huh? What was the keepsake?
Ring.
Ring. Huh? But then the girl thought that whatever happens, he will remember me. So he never realized that actually you need the visiting card, then only he would be able to recognize the person. The poor girl thought that for him, maybe this is one among many, I don't know. Anyway, while she was washing, she was carrying, and she went to the palace, of course. But while on the way washing hands, she lost the keepsake. So when she reached there, she looked for the ring. Of course, maybe the king would have asked, "Where is the? If I came there, I must have given you a ring. Where is the ring?" She did not have the ring, so there was no identity. It was gone. So, no address. So no visiting card. So no visiting card was. You know the story, no? So who?
Dushyant and Shakuntala.
Shakuntala and Dushyanta. You didn't get it. Oh my.
I've heard many stories like that. So
Oh, so many stories. Yeah, in 2 minutes we'll
What
tell you.
happens at the end? That's it, that's the end of the story?
Oh, you didn't know the Shakuntala story?
No.
Oh my, famous Indian story, the Shakuntala.
Oh, it missed me.
Okay, this is what is the Kanwa Maharshi, no? The
Okay.
sage Kanwa's he is a big legendary story of India, where this king comes for hunting, and she was the chaste one, brought up in this monastery. Yeah, and then they fall in love, but then he gives her a ring and goes back. But then an evil, some sorceress,
Yeah. Shakuntala.
sorceress comes, and she forgot. She was thinking about. So whoever you are thinking about will forget you. He curses her. Then, as she's going back, she washed her hands and she lost her ring. When she reaches there, the king had forgotten. Then, but she goes away and she has 2 children, Levin and Kushan. It's a famous story that everybody would know in India. It's Shakuntala. The legendary. Yeah. Okay, we will quickly. Or maybe we will continue. And we will just finish this and go. So now the nymphs are departed, and their friends, the loitering heirs of city directors departed, have left no address. By the rivers of Liman, I sat down and wept. You know the reference?
I saw it there.
It's written right there. We all know that.
By the rivers of Babylon, where we sat down. Yeah, we were. Bonham song. When remember Psalm 137, no? By the rivers of Babylon, where we sat down and wept. The Hebrews being carried away to Babylon. So they're crying for their. So here, the Sambanites and their endless reveries in the night. And finally, they have gone, the men have gone, and the women are left in the lurches. Okay.
What is layman?
No. Okay. That is Leman. It is so by the rivers of Babylon it should have been, but here the Leman is a lake in Geneva, on Lausanne, one of the places Eliot visited in 1921 for rest and cure, and this is where he perhaps finalized the poem. But it's also said in Middle English the term is for sexual partner, Leman. It's a place name, but Middle English it also meant sexual partner. So by the rivers of Babylon, but he says by the rivers of Leman, where I sat down and wept. Okay, we'll continue the journey through the wasteland. Any quick thoughts? Any final thoughts?
I was thinking the second part of today's reading also was very like close to the first part that we left, like this kind of the sense of the woman, even though it's her husband, like losing her self-presence and entering into the sexual act, even if it's with her husband, if she's not present to herself, it loses meaning. And even if there's pleasure, the true joy of, not that I know of it, but you know, the marital embrace so this like fleeing of self-presence, that when self-presence is gone, no amount of debauchery will fill that, no amount of, you know, hatred, anger, like lust, all those different things, because it's like you're trying to fill, what's it called, a vessel that has a hole, you know, that's.
Yeah, she herself is either made a dirty one. Even her friend is telling her, no?
Yeah.
You're so ugly, so dirty.
Identity.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much.
It's an identity, of course.
Because this is the reason why I put that thought in there, because it's like she tells him, okay, he'll want to know what you have done with the money. It's a common thing that a wife is going to think about, right? Like, okay, husband has given me money, he is going to ask. So that's something that goes within that.
Yeah, that's what she's
Also,
saying.
yeah,
And actually, it is actually the focus is the wife.
yeah.
No
exactly.
doubt, no
And
doubt.
that may be why the bartender is kind of angry, because she is sitting alone, not with a friend. She is sitting alone thinking something.
Very nice.
Have to get out.
It's no longer a theory. Yeah, and then the second one too, it's like it feels the nymphs leaving and loss of meaning, loss of self-presence.
I
Loss of
think
sensitivity
we will
to-
continue to see finally the wailing of this woman who has lost her, everything through this illicit sex, no? This enjoyment, everything is gone now. We will continue. Yeah, Siju, any thoughts?
I was actually looking up because I saw that crying of the poet and he's requesting for sweet aims, run softly till I end my song. So he had that longing, and he's expecting for a clean and a soft and a gentle move in his life. And there he explains how people sabotage the lives of other people also by loitering and putting their stuff into the calm life of other people. So then I was thinking, like, what is the connection between the nymphs, NYMPHS? And so I looked up and I found it is interesting. There is actually, they say that the nymphs have departed. There is a subtle link between part 2 of the poem, which ends with Ophelia's last words in Hamlet, before she is drowned in the river, and part 3, which begins with a bleak description of the river Thames. And in that scene in Hamlet, it says the fair Ophelia, nymph in thy orisons be all my sins remembered. So that word is being carried from Hamlet also. So there is a lot of connection, and there is a lot of desire for being respected for our own space, not to be ruined by people who doesn't have any thought process.
So that refrain is very loaded, no? Loaded with emotions. Sweet Thames run softly till I end my song. No, it's very beautiful. Yeah. Okay, we have crossed the time.
This lady says she only has a few lines, right? I can't help it. She said, pulling a long face. It's those I took. I just feel she's been pressured so
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
And she just burst, and those are only words I think. If I'm
Yeah.
not wrong, that she says, that she talks about the five already. The chemist said it would be all right, but it's when you get to that point, I mean, I'm just envisioning a person. I can't
Yeah.
help it. It's just
Yeah.
she kind of cracks. I feel
No, sometimes, in one way,
that voice.
this is a depiction of many of the marriages, no?
Yeah.
Marriages.
It's like you're blaming, she's blaming
Yeah,
it
she's
on
terribly-
something, you want to blame it on.
Yeah.
And that's not.
Oh, it's
here.
such a volcano, no?
Yeah.
What? How can you live that way, you know? So, terrible. Mental state is depicted that way, behind that.
Yeah, for me, the most like horrific part of the second part was just I can't help what she said, pulling a long face.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
struck me
Like,
a
to
lot.
bring it up
Yeah.
and knowing it's connected to her 5 children. She
Yeah.
nearly died of young George. So
Yes.
like the idea of it's not, it's a fruitful marriage that's destroying
Yeah.
her. That's actually destroying her. And then I wonder if also this is also the idea of like the woman in this like an archetype of just like wherever, like whatever country T.S. Eliot is from. And like, because my understanding is the wasteland is like this like overall.
Yeah, the wasteland is the modern world.
Yeah. Just almost this woman is just like using the woman and like look at how
Yeah.
from like this mother, how broken this mother is to even her own children.
Yeah.
And the contracept, like she's taking pills.
Yeah,
She's not even like she doesn't even fight against any of the insults thrown from this other woman who's basically the person that her husband is having an affair with.
Yeah.
She's just like, no, but I take the pills for
Yeah.
this. And like she's not like the natural response is anger or fighting against or
Yeah.
why are you engaging in dialogue
Yeah.
with a person who's having an affair with
Get
your
out of
husband?
my house.
That's insane. But like she's choosing to have
Pretty
conversation.
sure it's not a affair, even if it's an affair, it's with the couple. They both are involved. Yeah,
He's advocating for her.
they are. Otherwise, it's my theory. It's just.
I was like, no, listen, no, she's not that bad. Yo,
No,
she's
she's
getting married.
involved with if this is a friend, yeah, obviously she's involved with it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Okay.
Very good.
So then, good night.
Right.
Good night.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Good night.